got an owner of the business. Now that owner might be one person, it might be 4 million shareholders. There's an owner. And the owner's primary interest. The owner's primary interest is to do what?
Pay for it.
To maximize the return on the investment. That's what an owners do. They want a maximum return on investment. Now, I could be talking about nonprofits, okay? They have a different goal than maximum return on investment, but the structure that they should follow is pretty much identical. Nonprofits, co-ops, they're not an alternative to business. They are an alternative form of business, and they need to live and think and breathe like businesses, or they're going to come to grief. They're going to waste resources. They're going to cripple their ability to perform a lot of good things. They're going to drive their kids away. You know, I could go down a long list. So you've got your owner. Let's just stick in black. So you've got an owner here. The owner's job is to maximize return on investment, or ROI. Okay? Now, let's just take a corporate example. Okay? The shareholders hire, effectively, they hire a CEO, a chief executive officer. And what do you think the shareholders' idea is that the CEO's job should be?
Maximize rate of return.
Maximize your return on investment, your internal rate of return, all that other good stuff. Okay, so you've got here, you've got a CEO, whose job is basically to maximize ROI, because that's what the owners want. So that hasn't changed. Are you hearing this okay without the mic? Everybody? Okay. Because they're picking, I think they're picking up there. Okay. But so now you've got a CEO whose job is to maximize the ROI for the business. Typically, and there's some variation, then you'll get 3 vice presidents. Well, in some situations there's 4. Each has a different core area of responsibility. Okay? You've got a vice president of finance. You've got a vice president of operations or production or whatever you want to call that. And you've got a vice president of marketing. Now, these vice presidents, and some have, vice president of human resources and, a few other things like that, but that's the core structure of any basic business. These people have different responsibilities. The finance side, it's a matter of taking care of things like borrowing money and cash flow and budget analysis and so on, just to make sure that the numbers for the company, for the business, are telling a useful story. Okay? That is decision focused. That's the important piece there. You could drown in numbers. You don't have to have a lot, but they've got to be decision focused. They've got to be something you can actually use to evaluate the success of your business, the failings of your business, the challenges, the opportunities, and so on. That's what a VP Finance does. And the VP Finance reports to the CEO. And the VP Finance, his job is to deliver the numbers to the CEO. The VPs and the CEO will sit down and they will work out their plan for the year. Okay? Just like we try to work out budgets here and so on. Okay, what are the numbers that we've got to have in order to do what? To maximize the return on investment for the owners. Okay? So that's this guy's job here. VP Operations, that's making stuff, delivering a service, you know, operating on kids with appendicitis. I mean, whatever business, does not matter. Okay? What I want you to begin to grasp is that successful farming is not different. It's just one subset of all the kinds of things that people should do as a normal business. The VP Operations, again, same idea. You've got to deliver some numbers. You've got to control your cost of goods. You've got, you know, all those sorts of things, your cost of labor. And then your VP Marketing, deliver the numbers again. How do we sell this stuff? Okay, and where do we sell it? And what kind of margins do we need to have? And how are we going to, you know, work with the VP Finance to manage accounts receivable and all that other kind of stuff, and who gets credit and who doesn't. And that's all collaborative. But in all three cases, the functions of these people is to report through the CEO in order to maximize ROI for the owners. Now, under each of these, you got a series of what I'll just call line employees. I mean, there can be branches and charts and stuff like that, but they're all working downstream with different jobs. And they can be accountants, they can be janitors, they can be welders, they can be nurses, they can be skid steer operators. That doesn't matter. They're all in the appropriate line. You're not going to find a skid steer operator, though, working for the VP of Finance. Okay? You're going to find all the downline that does production kind of things working under the Vice President of Operations. And ditto, you know, your salespeople, you know, that are out on the road, or the people that are handling your publicity and your marketing and all that, those are all going to live on that side. I mean, now we're talking a fairly big business here, but I want you to grasp the picture, because here's where it's going to get interesting, and this is probably going to be the most important thing I say in this workshop. The vast majority of farmers that I've ever met behave like one or two line employees. They're out driving the tractor around, they're milking the cows, you know, they're sitting there, they're you know, repairing a shed, they're doing all these things that are necessary for production, and they're unavoidably necessary. But most farmers act and think like line employees. I've known very few line employees, very few employees in general, anywhere, that don't want life easy, easier than they've got it. You know, they're the ones that want a tidier office. They're the ones that want a newer computer. They're the ones that want a nice car to go on their sales route. They're the ones that want a nice air-conditioned tractor, or you know, the best cows, so that the neighbors. Okay? Now we're getting into this whole issue. I've said that the worst weed problems farmers have are down at the coffee shop. The worst problems there are also down at the coffee shop. It's what, you know, I've seen guys spend $65,000 for a Ford 250, brand new, loaded and tricked out. Why? Okay. Because they're thinking like a line employee who wants everything nice and new and shiny and fun and soft and easy. Here's the problem. Farmers that are living down here have completely abdicated everything up here. They don't do it, they don't think about it, and they certainly don't think like an owner. They're thinking like a line worker. Here's the problem. these functions get taken care of. But if the farmer has abdicated those vice presidential roles, who becomes the vice president, the functional vice president of finance for that farm? The banker, exactly. And who becomes the effective vice president of operation and production? The seed vendors, the fertilizer vendors, the pesticide vendors, okay, that are making those kind of decisions. Who becomes the effective vice president of marketing? The buyers. Well, these people are doing their job in their companies. Their interest is not the well-being of the farmer, other than like any good parasite to keep the host alive long enough to profit. You don't want to completely kill your host, but you want to get as much out of it as you can. The finance minister under Louis XIV of France had the best commentary about taxation I have ever heard. And this was in the 1700s for Louis XIV. He said, taxation is the art of removing as much down as possible from the goose with the minimum hissing and pecking and biting. Taxation, okay? Well, you know, it's kind of the same thing with the banker, you know, with the vendors, with the buyers. Well, now, is it any wonder then that the farm operation is bleeding profitability? Because this is gone. The farmer is not thinking this way at all. And if he were thinking, even like a VP, okay, a lot of those decisions would be different. So the biggest step that farmers can make towards profitability doesn't take any fancy new charts or equipment or computers or anything. It is a mental change. The logjam, the weakest link in the whole thing is the farmer's tendency to think like a line employee rather than even like a vice president. Now, on a farm, you're not going to have, most farms, you're not going to have this many employees. You know, so what I want you to grasp here is that we are talking now function rather than individual people. Okay? We're thinking that the function of thinking like a vice president of finance as you're working out your credit, for instance, or thinking as you're making your purchases, how do they fit in to the big picture of how you're selling your stuff, when and where. Do you take a nice weather rally in soybeans and hedge it? You know, even when conventional beans are, say they've popped up to $14, okay, during a weather incident, do you buy options to turn around and at least lock that in as a minimum price, regardless of whether you can sell it on the organic market or not? Okay, most farmers don't do that. Okay, and so as a result, they're selling on the cash market, or they're throwing it into the bin, or they're taking it out of the bin, have to get it down, get it clean. Somebody doesn't want it. It's got to go back in the bin, and it's got to go down and get cleaned again. And every time you touch the darn stuff, it costs you money, a lot of money, because it's having other implications. So, what I did on the farm in Quebec, and this is a description, it's not a prescription for how you should do it, but I actually, in my farm office, I had 3 little desks for each vice president position. Okay? I had a little desk that I worked at for VP of Finance, another one right here for VP of Operations, actually that was a little bit bigger, and another little one here for VP of Marketing. And I actually took it one step farther just for the fun of it. I had myself a set of green eye shades, okay? And I had my farmer's baseball cap, and then I had a bow tie. Okay? And what I would do is, that way it made it very clear to me I had everything that I needed for the finance side right there. So I would come in, and for half an hour or 5 hours, depending on the circumstance. I would come in, sit down, put on my green eye shades, and at that moment, I was the VP of Finance. Then I might go out to the field for 3 hours to cultivate a crop. I'm back to being a line guy here. Okay? Come back in the evening, go put on my bow tie, and start thinking about, marketing that next crop of cabbage or broccoli or whatever, and how are we going to do that, and how are we going to get the best price. So my point is, you don't have to have the people, but you should start to think about these kind of different functions in your business. And periodically, you should be thinking like a CEO to try to get the bigger picture. What do you, as CEO, expect out of this guy sitting at the VP Finance desk, or production, or so on. And then you start with this idea, you plan for profit. And that your whole planning process is oriented not towards making your life easier, not towards saying, oh, I've got a tax bill this year, I don't want to pay taxes, and running out and buying an $85,000 tractor. I tell you what, you're going to save maybe 15, 23% max on your taxes that year, depending on your income, maybe only 10. Point is, you want to do that? Tell you what, you give me 80,000 bucks, and I'll give you 10,000 bucks back, and we'll call it square. That's what farmers are doing when they run out and make a big capital purchase without thinking about it. And, it's the same kind of thing. They may run out and buy land. My policy when I was raising cattle is I would never own more land than I could comfortably stock without having to borrow money for the cattle. Otherwise, I own my cattle and rent the land. Because then it's easy to sell the cattle, liquidate it, and then no further obligations for renting the land. I see so many guys tie themselves up because they want to say, oh, I've got this many acres or whatnot. Again, it's a mental thing. And then you start thinking here, well, what kind of a return on investment do I really want? How much, some of that's a little trickier, but you could actually work with an accountant or a bookkeeper to do that part of it. Okay, that's probably money very, very well spent. So do you begin to see how this particular approach differs from the way that it's commonly done? And can you begin to see that this is not actually a dauntingly difficult shift to make in how you approach things? Okay? It's beginning to think like an owner.